No, you can't increase. You can only decrease. Or it's like, oh,
Welcome to the election debate. I'm Teaspoon and I'm joined by Bushberry123 to host this magnificent debate this evening. Joined with us are four representatives or leaders of the main political parties. We have Harold Rothschild, the new leader of the Unionist Party. We have Jimbo9687, the former chairperson of the Social Democrat Party. Boston Man 18, the leader of the Pirate Party, and Captain Slow, the treasurer of the National Party. So we're going to dive straight in and not waste any time and begin with the opening statements. So we're going to go from left to right, and we're going to start with Jimbo.
In recent weeks, we've been plagued by both weak and unstable governance. The leaders of both the Unionists and the Pirates have been engaged in a pathetic ego war over who will be PM one day and who will be PM the next, and have quite frankly abandoned the people. We, in the Social Democrats, believe we can do better than that, and we know you do too. With both energy and experience across all departments, we offer a clear vision for substantive change, and it is increasingly clear that only we can deliver practical and serious governance for Britain. Our record shows we can do better than this, and if elected to government, the Social Democrats will do so. Thank you.
Next up, we have Boston Man from the Pirates.
All right, so unlike my predecessor, I'm not scripting exactly what I'm going to say because I'm not a loser. The Pirate Party is clearly and most obviously shown that we are prepared to serve as the Prime Minister and government. In the most recent term, we got a lot done in just a short 2 weeks. We have a very stacked cabinet, a very padded cabinet with some of the greatest minds across the United Kingdom. And I feel that if we were elected, you'd see a lot of change very quickly with Britain in the way that how it's run. And so I think that that is a very solid reason as to why the Pirate Party should be voted for. And also, we don't script our opening statements because that is so lame. So lame, Jimbo. I'm disappointed.
So next we have Harold from the Unionist Party.
Well, I must say I agree with Boston Man on scripting your opening statements. Bit pathetic, Jimbo. But the Unionist Party is here. We're ready to govern, as always. National security is the aim. And as you've seen, we've released our manifesto. Us and the Social Democrats have both released our manifestos. And in there, we put a heavy focus on national security. And I assure you all, a vote for the Unionist Party is a vote for protecting our national security, for strengthening our national security apparatus. And, we're the best option. Go for us. We're ready to win. We've got the momentum. Campaigning on Westbridge has been excellent. Come on, join us.
And finally, Captain Slow from the National Party.
Thank you. I must say, I haven't actually scripted this part, so I'm just going to roll with whatever comes to my DMs. Right, past governments have proved they're incapable of ruling and putting the nation's interests first. Apparently, the Nationals believe in putting people first. Oh my god, this is horrible. Okay, I'm done.
So you're not going to script it, but you're going to wait for people to DM you what to say.
Pretty much, yeah.
Leave him be. You didn't script it.
Right, guys, just let him finish this.
Absolutely brutal. He said he's done. His statement's
Oh,
over.
is he done? Okay. So, well, that was short from his DMs, but we're going to start off with the first question here. Now, over at The Independent, we have made sure to make the questions as relevant and versatile rather than the usual just, oh, what will you do for the Home Office policy? So, this question comes with, do any of you have a plan to speed up the registration process for businesses? And will you make sure that more slots are built so that the more in-game companies can be registered? So we're going to go from back to front, starting with Captain Slow on this one.
Wait, can you repeat the question? I was not listening.
I can repeat the question. Do any of you have a plan to speed up the registration process for businesses, and will you make sure that more slots are built so that more in-game companies can be registered?
Well, luckily, I'm the proposed Chancellor for the National, so I have sort of an idea what we're planning to do. Let me just find where it is.
Well, you don't have much of an idea.
No, it doesn't. I was not prepared for this. I was forced into it. Yep.
Wing it, dude. You think I'm prepared for this? I'm winging it.
Yeah, I know you are, but you're good at that. Anyway, we plan on working closely with Companies House to get businesses registered much more quickly. And I think I've been noticing lately especially with the company's house, that more in-game businesses are being registered, but it'd be helpful to register more to boost activity. And really, that's what a Nationals Treasury would stand for, to boost the activity of businesses in game and to get registration done quicker. But the plan that we have for that is, it's not really a quick process. It's a matter of relying upon the registrars of Companies House to, well, to put it simply, do their jobs. But more importantly, to lead people to want to create in-game businesses and look at having their businesses implemented in-game.
Oh, thank you very much for that answer. Harold, your turn now.
Well, with regard to in-game businesses, I'll be completely honest. None of the parties here set the policy, set the tone on how that works. That's group management. That's what development decides. But I had the pleasure of driving around Westbridge today. They recently installed the dual carriageway and brought airshares to Westbridge, which was very nice. I was very happy to see that. So if slots are available, and this is completely up to Wayne and the rest of development, we will absolutely back more in-game businesses, 100%. And when you were talking about making the registration of businesses quicker, one of the unionist policies this election and last election that was to introduce pre-registration checks, which would tell businesses that attempt to register within 24 hours whether their proposal will be approved, held back, or rejected. And that will give more clarity to the businesses, and hopefully we can work with the registrars to speed up the process.
Brilliant. And Boston?
Yeah, so with the appointment of the new permanent secretary, obviously things are a little different from what was occurring when we actually took office 2 weeks ago. But we do have a plan forward for the Treasury, especially lowering business times, registration times. Obviously, as Harold said, we can't really put businesses into Westbridge. That's a developmental concern. But we can introduce a bunch of different ideas that might be able to help speed up that process. Working together with the Companies House in general, ensuring that they're staffed is really the biggest way forward for this. Obviously, there's a pretty significant wait time for actually registering businesses. So those obviously need to be shortened on. We have a lot of plans for the actual Treasury itself. And while that is one of our main concerns is lowering business times, we also have plans to reform the Patent Act, reform Ofcom, introduce competition law, and just a bunch of different other ideas to actually help incentivize people to participate in our Treasury. Since obviously, as we see now, it's currently in a pretty sad state. You know, the registration time is abysmal. People aren't really interacting with it very much. The same companies keep winning Business of the Month and all those other various accolades. They keep winning those over and over again because they're the largest. We have a lot of plans to address these issues and revitalize our Treasury.
Amazing. You didn't answer the question.
And finally, Jimbo.
What?
Well, I would, to an extent, echo what the other leaders have said, in the sense that the government does not directly control which businesses go into Westbridge. However, I think we can do more than what we have been doing recently. And I think a key part of that has to be not only ensuring that the Treasury is adequately staffed, but hiring more staff so that the process can be speeded up for businesses and so we can get them in game if a slot's there as quick as possible. I'd also add that a sector that we would like to particularly focus on in government is local media. We think that's a really valuable sector, and we think that we could increase government support for local media, which is another way we could get business more involved in Westbridge. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to give a few minutes to an open floor on where you will be able to question other leaders on their views on this topic. So the floor is open to whoever wants it.
Yeah, so I do have a question regard to the unionist, Mr. Harold. Obviously, in the most recent government, the unionists had to fire their chancellor for being "quote unquote" inactive. Who's your proposed chancellor, and how do you plan to move forward from that? Also, I'm not answering this topic because it's the most recycled question and it's used every debate. So we're gonna help spark up your debate a little bit. Mr. Harold, go on.
Right now, I've proposed Goalkeeper 28, which he's been around for a long time. He's active within Transport for London. He's the CEO for Metro Cabs London, and he's the CEO for First Group PLC. He knows what he's doing. He brought the first part of the reforms to TFL in, and he's active. He's willing to work, and quite frankly, he'll do a great job. Now, with regard to your own proposed Chancellor, the Pokemon Rule Law, I had some excellent DMs with him just before the end of the last term, where he was telling me to. Let me just get them up in a second. I'm just getting them up. Pokemon Rule Law. He said, "I want to abolish the Confederation of British Industry, the private industry lobbying group. Pokemon Rule Law wanted to abolish that, take that voice away from the private businesses and bring that back into government control, which is exactly what we wanted to stop in the first place. And quite frankly, he can't do that because he doesn't control it." And yeah, that's about it.
What was the question there? That was an unhinged tangent. Let's go into the Unionist Treasury policies real quick. No, let's go into Unionist Treasury policies real quick. You guys had to rely on the pirates for literally everything, not just in the Treasury. This was also the Foreign Office, the Home Office. You guys literally relied on us for everything.
Yeah. You want to go? You're going straight from the
okay, no. Tell me, Harold. Tell me. Who worked on the budget in 23 hours and got it proposed? It took you guys 2 weeks to get the budget proposed, and it took us 23 hours.
Hey guys,
And we
settle
actually got
down.
the budget
Settle,
proposed and
Boston.
passed.
Calm. Okay. It's clear there was a lot of shouting there, but I think you got your points across. We're going to move on to something more interesting. We're going to bring up a member of the public to ask a question now to all of you. So, Drac710, the previous Chancellor you were just talking about, has got a question to ask.
Oh,
If he
boy,
accepts my invite. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Hello. Good evening. Hello.
Good evening, Drag.
Good evening, folks. I've got a question for you all. Going to be answered live on air. We have seen a lot of political instability. So how does each party promise to deliver a stable government that won't collapse? And will each party avoid taking risks like fighting with each other?
The Unionist Party will give you a 2-month-long government, and they won't withdraw midway through the coalition because they were sour that they didn't get Prime Minister 7 days early. Enough said.
Neither the Unionist
government
nor
will
the
make
pirates
promises
can claim.
So we're going to go back to an orderly form of answering. So, Jimbo, if you'd like to answer first.
Yes, thank you. Neither the Unionists nor the pirates can possibly claim to be able to offer stable governance after they broke up a coalition over who will be PM one week and who will be PM the next week. It was pretty pathetic seeing the incessant messaging in both the parties' channels, and frankly I think it's embarrassing. So the idea that either Boston or Harold can come here and suggest that they are the parties of stable government is frankly an absurdity.
Okay, and now Boston.
My turn. So I'm just going to address this going party by party. The Social Democrats we made a video on, and we had 75 screenshots of corruption, instability, and other various crimes committed by people of their members. Yes, we did. And it is channel. In fact, I will forward it right to my channel right now.
You can forward it because I've watched it, and there's really nothing in there. It's frankly embarrassing that you actually took the time to put that out, because there really is nothing.
Jimbo, can you just let him finish his answer, Boston, if you want to continue?
Do you hear this? They quite literally are saying it's a big nothing burger when their own prime minister had all of his honors stripped for being so corrupt, was labeled a national security threat.
When was Callum prime minister? 4 months ago.
When was Callum prime minister? What about Martin? Okay, let's talk about your most recent leader, Martin. Martin quite literally got forced out by scripted Sid after being such a weakling. And you are in here telling me about stability?
What?
The absolute gall of you, Jimbo. You don't know anything. Not only this,
you've just called Martin a weakling. And
yes, he's a very weak leader. Anyone can join my party. That doesn't matter. There's people joining my party all the day.
He's a weakling.
Right.
He doesn't have the free right to join a party. Can he not click join on my party?
Dear God, Boston, can you please stop shouting into your microphone?
Boston, just get to the point. Keep going.
Let's move on to Harold. The Unionist government that breaks promises. They promised me 2 weeks until they transfer prime minister. Okay, 2 weeks,
and you
then
threw
that's
your
how
toys out the pram. because you're a little child.
Because he broke a promise.
Yeah,
and also
exactly,
that was-
Jimbo. No, he is a little child. All he wants is Prime Minister. All he wants is power. And
Right, guys,
I'm
can we
warning,
let him finish?
I'm warning
Let
Captain
Boston
Slow. I'm
finish.
warning Jimbo.
Well, there's
I'm
not
warning
much point letting
every
him
other,
finish because he
every other
talks
party.
rubbish.
You
I'm
guys,
warning,
you guys
do not
see it
work
here
with the Pirate
firsthand.
Party. If you want a 2-month-long government, do not work with the Pirate Party.
Harold,
They will withdraw
Harold,
if they don't get
Harold,
one thing. They all
Harold.
want power. All they want is
Calm
position.
down.
That's probably not what you want.
Calm down, Harold.
Listen
You'll
to
get
this
your
man
turn
throw
in
an
a second.
absolute
Boston, keep
tantrum
going,
over
please.
this. Talking to us about stability, throwing an
You
absolute
brought it
tantrum.
up, you fool.
The question was about stability, Jimbo. Does your
So it's
brain
not
work
a
at all,
tangent then,
or
is
is
it,
just?
idiot?
Did you not just hear what he did? He had to get muted in the Discord call because he was throwing such a tantrum. Jimbo, your party is
Right,
so
Boston,
corrupt
Boston,
that
just get to the point.
they lost
Boston, get to
60
the point.
votes in 2 months. 60 votes in 2 months. Harold, your party breaks promises after promising to get a coalition after making a perceived threat much worse than it was. You break a promise and then throw a tantrum when we decide to break coalition after you break a promise to us that was in the agreement. I'm sorry, but you guys know nothing about stability. The only party that I'll give credit to is the Nationals, and that's because they haven't done anything.
All right, so now moving on to Harold. Go for it.
Well, I mean, if Boston wants this agreement as microphone anymore, that's his choice. But quite frankly,
After you had that full crash out.
him talking about stability is ironic, given that he crashed the government over 7 days, and
Which
it was
our entire party wanted.
It was over 7 days, and Boston Man crashed the government. It was him. It was his decision to make. He can claim all he wants. I've got DMs from him saying that. It was his caucus that forced him to do it. It was the council.
Hey, Harold, why were
tribunals
you
that
in the
forced him
Vonk
to do it.
against JBM then? Why were you planning with Drac and the Vonk against JBM if you're the party of
I've got
stability?
actually, Boston Man. I think this would be a
Tell me
great
about
time. This would be a great time for me to send you a screenshot.
Oh, you mean the
of me
screenshot where you're like, I'm
working-
actually not a part of the Vonk after you realized you were caught? Yeah, I don't care about that. You were literally a
Of
part
me
of the Vonk
working-
along with your
of me
proposed chancellor
working-
and goalkeeper. Your proposed goalkeeper, he was a part of the Vonk. Drac was a part of the Vonk. Why did half your party vote to coup your own leader, and then you're talking to us about stability? That's just very ironic to me. Do you mind answering that?
And yes, how are you
Absolutely.
talking to us
I
about
would-
stability, given that you took out nearly single-handedly a government? Why did you agree to the coalition agreement if you didn't find it acceptable? Why didn't you clear things up?
We
It doesn't
found
really
it acceptable
smack
at the
of
promises
strong
that they
leadership,
delivered.
does it? Does it?
They promised things to us. We found that acceptable. They broke the promises. We broke the agreement. This is really not a hard concept to follow, Jimbo.
But you couldn't sort it out. You couldn't find a middle ground.
We attempted to, and they decided not to. Because
Well, clearly you
not only
didn't try hard enough.
We tried
Guys, as
plenty
much
hard
as I
enough
love
to
your
have
little
Vonk
debate
win.
here, can we let Harold finish his point?
Right, okay, where the hell was I up to? Yeah. Boston Man withdrew from the government over 7 days because he was pressured to by his council tribunes and by his caucus, which is unfortunate. I would have personally liked a 2-month government where each government serves out their full term. Now, I promise you, we'll work with any single party, any one of these parties that is willing to work with us for the full 2 months and deliver our aims of national security. If Boston Man is not willing to do that, if Boston Man is willing to put his own priorities first, that's very much his choice.
Isn't that the point of being the leader of a party, to represent their populace and what
No,
they
no,
want?
to represent
No,
your
it's
own
to
choice,
provide
your own
stable
power.
governance, which you...
And we
Stable
provided
governance,
stable
yeah,
governance.
right,
to
right,
No, you
the
didn't.
unionists
No, you
broke
didn't provide
promises.
stable governance.
broke
because
the
You
your
coalition
withdrew.
government
agreement.
collapsed.
You withdrew from the coalition.
Unstable.
2
And not to
weeks
mention
into
our
it.
entire... Yes,
2
because you
weeks.
broke a promise. This is a
2
very
weeks.
simple
2
simple
weeks into a
concept.
government, you
When
withdrew
you
Get
from the
over
promise
it.
coalition.
things in a
Right,
coalition
right.
agreement and then
Now,
you
from
break
the
it,
from
we
the
break the
silent
coalition.
party
Is your-
here,
Is your
Captain
ego
Slow, can you
that
give us your answer to
ridiculously
this?
large that you couldn't bring?
Are you still... Yeah, get muted.
Right, Captain Slow, can you give us your answer to this question, as we haven't heard from you on this debate?
Okay, hello, thank you. Well, thanks for the crash out for you three. I see we're demonstrating stability extremely well. First and foremost, the Nats will hire people who, most importantly, won't get banned for racism or sacked for inactivity. Or maybe like Maria, who got removed for safeguarding reasons as is somehow a unionist campaigner. Both the Pirates and Unionists, for one, can't be trusted with stability as they bicker over one single week in government. I mean, a question about stability and we all immediately launch into having bickering arguments with each other, it really demonstrates it very well, doesn't it?
Okay, thank you very much. Now I'm going to open the floor to all of you. Just try to keep the shouting at a minimum.
Dave, God.
I mean, Captain Slow, I appreciate the Bushberry response there. I guess that's all I have to say.
I take after Bushbury. He's my role model. He's my daddy in the party.
Mine too.
Okay, this is awkward. I'm going to talk about cool things. Yeah, so we have a lot of plans moving forward. It's going to be great. Yeah, I look forward to working with my good friends here, fellow leaders. I can't wait.
Well, who are you going to work with? Because why would anyone work with you?
Well, actually,
Your
Jimbo, that
answer
is
last
that
week.
is a great
That's
question
ironic
that I'm going
because-
to ask now.
No, it's not
But,
ironic. It's true.
guys,
Mr.
quiet,
Hierarchy himself wanted to
quiet.
work with me, your own party leader.
We're not
No,
working
you know-
with you. I can
you know, I'll say-
categorically tell you.
So the next
Okay.
question, I'm just going to have to mute you guys, is going to be, what parties would each of you be willing to work with, and who would you specifically rule out from going into a coalition with, starting with Captain Slow?
Thank you, Teaspoon. Well, for one, this is a pretty easy answer for the Nationals. And to get straight to the point, it's any of them. I'll be honest, the Nats as a party, we can't pick and choose who we are willing to coalition with because, well, I hate to say it, but we're a bit unstable. But that leaves a lot of options open for us, and I don't think we're one for ruling anyone out because, well, everyone has equal opportunities for us. But yeah, that's about it.
Okay, and now to Harold.
Yeah, the Unionist Party is willing to work with any one of these parties so long as they serve out their full 2 months in government. And, I think withdrawing over a petty dispute, petty disputes happen all the time in government. It's not a new thing. So, I'm good friends with Jimbo. I'm on relatively great terms with the new national leader. And I would hope I'm on decent-ish terms with the Pirate Party. So I'm willing to work with any of them so long as they serve out, and they promise to serve out their 2 months in government.
And Boston Man now.
Yeah, I mean, we're willing to, as I said in my statement after the dissolution of the government and parliament, we're willing to work with anybody. We have not ruled anyone out. Obviously, I view every leader of the three other parties on good terms. This is all political game, and so we're good friends behind the scenes. Stuart and I get along. Harold and I did get along, and we still do, I'd say, because even JBM and I still get along. And I don't know Via Hierarchy too well, but we also get along, so we haven't ruled anyone out.
And finally, Jimbo.
We are open to working with anyone who is ready to provide stable governance.
Okay, now to change up the topic a bit, this is why are you as party leaders so obsessed with party politics and tearing shreds off of each other rather than trying to represent the community of whom is undeniably divided at this time? Starting with Jimbo.
Well, I think the community is always divided along party lines. I think that's been the case for my time here, at least anyway. However, nevertheless, I do think that we are in a pretty poor period. I think this latest episode between the Pirates and the Unionists has been pretty disappointing, really, and it does indeed epitomise what the who asked the question? Sorry, is it an anonymous question?
Yeah, it's from the
Well,
Independent.
Well, it epitomises the spirit of the question, really, because what people want is, yes, we want elections, yes, we want a bit of fun, but when it comes to the end of that election, we want a stable government for 2 months. That is what we can offer in the Social Democrats, but I'm not convinced that all of the other parties are quite along those tracks at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Now, Boston Man.
Yeah, I mean, we're in an election period, so obviously the parties are going to be tearing each other apart. When we were in government for the first 2 weeks up until that last weekend, we worked well. We worked well with the Unionists. I mean, there was no issues with that. Obviously, we had some petty disputes, as I believe it was Harold mentioned, but we got along well, and in general, the government itself was pretty stable. Whatever you believe in regards to the promise being broken, if you believe that the coalition should have been dissolved or not, This just goes to show that, I mean, both parties that in government are usually willing to work together. Neither of them really want another general election most of the time, unless if it's like a deal-breaking promise that's being broken. I feel like the division in politics itself is what drives half of the activity we see in politics. It drives media, it gives a purpose to media. It gives a purpose to obviously politics. The cabinet secretaries, they all have a job to do, which derives from politics, especially the Foreign Office. So I feel like, yes, it's divisive, but at the same time, it's also contributing a lot to our nation. And while obviously you want to see more unity between the parties, with what we saw with Forward just a short 3 weeks ago, I think that we are in a much better state than we were 3 weeks ago.
Okay, and now Harold.
I'm going to take on to this on a completely different angle to these other two, and I will say that the community isn't divided. The community is quite frankly united. There is a small contingent of the community that is actively involved in the political sphere, and I would say, they're pretty much united on most things. None of us want Westbridge to die. None of us want, the armed forces to collapse. None of us want the Commonwealth to collapse. I mean, except for Callum Cathcart, but none of us want things to go bad. I'd say we all have similar aims. We're all united, quite frankly. But we're in an election period. There is division, and I think Boston Man made an excellent point about Forward UK. Forward UK came here as, I would say, quite frankly, a threat to what the community stands for, and all of these other parties, Jimbo's party, Captain Slow's party, Boston's party, we all united against them, and that's the unity that we want to have more of. And yeah, quite frankly, that's it. I'd say the community isn't divided.
Okay, and Captain Slow.
Thank you. I think firstly, the answer to that question is that's just how party politics works. Everyone's petty and trying to rip each other to shreds, but I like to think of Nationals as a mediator in some ways. It's a shame that bipartisanship has become rare after the dissolution of Forward, but most importantly, the other parties are focused upon political bickering, but frankly I think the Nats have changed tack and are focusing upon a stable government to, well, rebuild and reclaim our country. The role of the government isn't to surround themselves by only party politics, but to represent the community and what they want.
Didn't you describe your party as unstable earlier?
Yes,
Very good point.
in many ways more than one, but I think we're united in some ways.
Okay, the floor is open if anyone else wants to debate on this question before we move on.
I actually liked Harold's approach to this. It was actually a very solid approach. Maybe we aren't divided. Maybe we like to perceive that we're divided just because of party politics. But when an actual threat or problem arises, we unite together. Because that was actually a good point. All four of the parties did unite and band together against them. Because Forward was genuinely a threat to our country, our civil institutions, our royal family. So I actually kind of agree wholeheartedly with what Harold said there.
Boston's said it pretty well. Obviously, I'm going to agree with myself, no doubt. But I've seen it myself. Back in the day, Jimbo was here as well when there was the whole Marcus versus William Marina thing. I was with the group chats with Marcus. Marcus absolutely hated William Marina, but at the end of the day, they were friends. And it all turns out well. The community isn't divided, quite frankly. It's a small sect of the community that you could say delves into chaos around this time, around election time. But the community is not divided. You will get a good person no matter where you go. The community is together, united. There's a small contingent of the community that likes to tear us apart. The Callum Cathcart types, but the community is united. The community is great. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Yep. Thank you very much. I would now like to introduce a question from the audience. I will be inviting Mr. Boos is made to ask his question live. Mr. Boos, are you there?
Hello, leaders. Over the past couple of weeks and months, it's been harder to trust political parties. So my question is, how can we trust your party to lead a new government, and why should we not trust the other parties? Thank you.
Starting with Captain Slow on this one.
Thank you. I was sort of hoping that you wouldn't go with me on that one, but I can't really give an answer. When we go back to stability, we talk about political parties need to work with each other when they're in government, and stability is a focus that the Nationals have, in the back of their minds. Oh, someone's disappeared. But anyway, I think it's close to stability's a value and a principle that the Nationals hold close, and I don't really think it's more the fact that it's hard to come across political parties or not agree with their opinions or anything like that, but I can't really give a solid answer to that question.
All right, now moving on to Harold.
Yeah, you can trust the Unionist Party. We worked well with the National Party. I'd say, as Bosterman said, we worked well with the Pirate Party for the first 2 weeks. But I tell you, you can trust the Unionist Party because, quite frankly, we will serve out our full term in government. We won't be the ones to leave a week or two early just because we're mad. We won't be the ones to leave 5 weeks early because we're mad over one tiny, a tiny thing over 7 days. But, I tell you, you vote for the Unionist Party, we will be there for the full 2 terms, and we will be there for you in helping our national security apparatus. So, the Unionist Party is there for you if you want the full 2 months. You can trust us; we will serve the full 2 months. We've shown that we are willing to serve the full 2 months when we voted against that motion, and I think that about sums it up.
And now Boston, man.
The deflection there was absolutely crazy. That's what I want to start off with. It was just absurd. Yes, okay, the government was ended early. If in the screenshots that we displayed in our channel, it is pretty evident. We said a deal breaker is that you transfer prime minister in the first 2 weeks. That really is just a simple concept. I'm not getting the big whop over that. But in regards to everything else, yes, we could form a stable government. Stability is really, again, not an issue. And this does tie into the last question that was asked, which is, why is there such a divide in the community? There really isn't. You have parties that squander over political beef and political drama, but when
Like
the time
yours,
comes,
maybe.
every party is a part of that. Jimbo tried to sit here and high horse this, act like you're some moral god, is complete
I've not
bullshit.
said anything. I've just pointed out that
You just okay.
You
This
are
is like the
part of that.
6th time you've yapped in my segment, and you're trying to come and play some moral
Well,
high
carry
horse.
on
Like,
then. Carry on.
thank
Carry
you. Yeah, that's right. Give up. Good boy. Yeah. So as I was saying before, I was rudely interrupted. The political drama is obviously a key part to the politics of this group. Forming a stable government is not a real issue unless if promises are broken. But
It is an issue
again,
because
if
it
promises
didn't
are made,
happen.
promises
It
will
is
be
an
broken.
issue. It's an issue for
It
the
didn't happen.
pirates.
Because it
An
didn't
issue
happen.
and not an issue for the Social Democrats. Is that like what the point? What point are you trying to make here, Jimbo? You're out here trying to say that the
I'm
Social
making the point
Democrats
that
are
you
some
haven't
stable
been able to
party.
provide.
Yet, didn't you have a leader 3 months ago resign right in the election period, Edward Lighton? Didn't you have a party leader forced out just 2 weeks ago for being weak? I mean, yes, he's in the Pirates now, but I can't stop a man from
What,
clicking join on
Martin?
the Discord server. You could absolutely stop a person from becoming the leader of your party. Okay, so it's like I don't get what moral high horse you're trying to like ride on here because
I'm not. All I've done is point out that you talk about stable governance, but you
Yes,
negotiated a deal. Well, then, and the unionists as well. Like, why couldn't you get this to work?
because they
Why was
broke
that
the
so
deal.
difficult?
They refused to abide by
And
the
why was
promises
it
they made to us.
Why was Michael being PM for 2 weeks? Why was that accepted in the first place? What was the
Because it
point
was a
of
part of
that?
the original agreement
Why?
that he made.
2
That's a
weeks is
unionist
such
question.
an
That's not one for me.
insignificant point. It's such an insignificant period. Why was it ever in?
He
Why was
offered 2 weeks. He said that he would transfer it off in 2 weeks. He promised it. We said that's a deal breaker because we wanted to be prime minister first. We gave it up to them first. I feel like that's not really a question for the pirates, but more so for the unionists. But just because I'm saying that we could form a stable government doesn't mean that there's not some slight instability in our party. There is in all of our parties. And tried to sit here and claim that the pirates are unstable, but the Social Democrats aren't.
I've
is
said that you
frankly
couldn't provide
comedic.
stable government, which I
All right,
think is
let's
Which
move.
we
Let's move
absolutely
on.
could.
Let's
The
move on to
Social
Jimbo
Democrats
just to
can't
wrap up
either.
this question. Jimbo, can you give your answer to the question?
Well, I think that stability and trust, which is what the question was focused on, is important in politics. On the issue of trust in particular, we've got a lot of great MPs who've been with us for a while, who are now coming into the cabinet. We've got experienced individuals within the party, and like Sid as general secretary. I can understand why people are concerned about trust. I don't think that this latest episode, whoever is at fault, has helped that, and I think everyone here would recognise that.
Yeah.
But what I can say is that if we're in government, whether we're in a minority role in a coalition or whether in a majority role, whatever role, that we will push for stability and that we will work together in government with whoever, as long as that we are both on the same page about providing serious and practical governance for the group. Thank you.
All right. Now, is there anything that people want to jump in on the floor for this question? If not, we'll
We've
move
kind
on.
of done it already, haven't we?
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, I think
Yeah.
Bushberry wants to announce
we
about
had the debate period there.
the
Right,
form.
so we're about 40 minutes into the debate now. We've heard a lot of what leaders have had to say. So what we're going to do, we're going to open a form, a poll, to get your thoughts on the winner of the election debate. There are still, a few minutes left, so you are able to change your vote if your ideas do change. But the plan is to announce a winner of this election debate live on air in about 20 minutes or so. Back to you, Teaspoon, to carry on. It'll be in hashtag broadcasting right now. Thank you very much.
Okay, now the topic of this next question has been touched upon at a couple points during this debate, but I want to have this affirmed for all live on air. If you were to enter a coalition and the
Could I quickly state
party-
something? Your Google
Yeah.
form is access denied right now.
Oh,
Yeah,
crap.
okay, Bush.
Sorry. Apologies.
Okay,
No, you're all
if you
good.
were to enter a coalition and the other party broke a major part of the coalition agreement, what would you as a party leader do in response? We're going to shake up the order for this one. I'm going to start with Boston, man.
I mean, I think it's pretty obvious what we would do. It depends on the gravity of the promise. I mean, if it's something simple and small, like like a King's speech policy, and they're just like, actually, we don't want to do that anymore, or in the example of like forward dissolving with 15 seats and completely unbalancing the balance of power in Parliament, obviously that could be resolved through just a simple discussion. That's something that's not too big of a deal. If it's a big major promise, something that a party states as a deal breaker and that they would not allow being walked over, such as transferring prime minister in 2 weeks, that's something that a party will find as a major slight and would not want to continue in a coalition government with.
Now, Harold, we're going to go to you next.
Well, I think it's quite good that you started off with Boston Man, because I think it's obvious what Boston Man would do. He would withdraw from the coalition, and I don't think that's great in the interest of stability. What the Unionist Party would do, especially at a critical period such as this, is continue its focus on national security, whilst also working with the other coalition partner to try and get yourself out of the problem to start off with, offer them a middle ground, work with them, find a way out. Because I think that's what we're all elected for, to find a way out. We're elected to serve out the full 2 terms, and the full 2 months, and we should be looking to actually serve the full 2 months rather than withdraw straight away. So I think, the Unionist Party would try not to withdraw from the coalition. I think that's one of the things that we'd not do.
Now, Jimbo, what would you do in this situation?
Well, I think that a key part of it is negotiating an effective coalition agreement to begin with. I'm not convinced that the one that we've just had was particularly effective when you've got a contentious issue around a transfer of who's going to be PM 2 weeks in. That aside, it depends what you mean by it depends how you define a major point, a major issue. We would be very, very reluctant to withdraw from a coalition. I can tell you that. It would have to be something so catastrophically bad. It's not something that I've ever experienced when I've been in government. So all I can say is that I'm not going to rule it out because, of course, no one can rule it out. But we would be extremely reluctant to do so because, frankly, I don't think it's good politics, and I don't think it's really in the best interests of everyone, really. Thank you.
Well said. Well said.
And finally, Captain Slow.
Thank you. Well, I think if any promise was to be broken and the Nationals were dumbed down as a minor part of it, I'd like to think we'd raise the issue and demand that it's fixed. Obviously, stability and solving issues diplomatically is important, but promises that parties make are crucial in functional government. And if a party isn't willing to uphold the promises they've made of us, then we aren't willing to work positively in a government with them. Overall, I must say, we won't be pushed over and we won't be considered as the party people can bully.
Okay, does anyone have any debate on this topic? No?
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay, next question. What can you as leaders promise that you will do to modernise Parliament? And specifically speaking about a major issue people have brought up, which is regarding the voice of backbenchers. Starting with Harold.
Well, I think you'll all know that during the Unionist National Coalition government, we repealed the Backbench Protections Act, which I think, to be quite frank and to be quite honest, was completely and utterly useless. It didn't do anything. Every party that I knew worked some way around it in their manifesto. In their constitution, and I think it was the right thing to do. Now, when it comes to making sure that backbenchers have a voice, you might have seen that we proposed the Public Accounts Committee, which would give MPs and lords and people who are experienced, alongside our backbenchers, a way to scrutinise the government when it comes to the budget. I was initially opposed to this because I thought my approach to the Treasury was, make sure there's nothing in there that shouldn't be there, make sure everything is airtight. But I think it's good to make sure that MPs have some sort of input, and I think that would be a very beneficial thing. It's great for backbenchers' voices, it's great for everything, and yeah, I'm quite happy with that, and I think that's great. So I think that's about it. More committees, more representation, making sure that all the backbenchers have a way to scrutinise the government effectively. Prime Minister's questions once a week. I mean, to be honest, who's really asking the questions? It's the parties that are asking the questions, not the backbenchers. So, it's all about encouraging your backbenchers to do more, I would say.
Now, next, Boston Man.
Yeah, we have a lot of plans for actually reforming Parliament. Obviously, the current format is unsustainable. One of the biggest things we wanted to work towards was speaker reform, since there was discrepancies with the speaker position. So we wanted to introduce one MP from each party and a new procedure committee. That, in our opinion, would help improve parliamentary performance. We had the idea of debate forums, which would be having basically in the middle of the term a debate forum where all the politicians and just ordinary citizens that are interested have a meet. And they discuss policies. A big thing of the Pirates is transparency, so holding the government accountable or being accountable. So legislating changes for a single document for cabinet reports was something that we wanted to plan to do, while reforming the Official Secrets Act so that whistleblowing protections were established. We had the idea of introducing parliamentary groups, which would essentially allow independents or members of parties, backbenchers in the case that was just mentioned, have the ability to be a part of a parliamentary group to represent the interests that they believe in. Obviously, we will bring back the liaison committee. Sorry, I pronounced that wrong. Because it produced a lot of great things for us. It was the sole committee of the House of Commons for a while, and it allowed fair representation of each party in the committee. So we have a lot of plans for actually reforming Parliament. Obviously, what we see now is just unsustainable. The Backbencher Protections Act was very weak. We supported its repeal. It was something we aimed to rework, but we're still in the process of trying to figure out how we can make it work without having loopholes. Because, as Michael said in a past debate, there are instances where you just have to remove a backbencher. I mean, if they have two misses for a Parliament session, they don't plan on coming to the third one, and you need full attendance, instances like that where you just have to remove a backbencher. There's no question to it. They just need to be removed. Or in the Pirate Party's case, where you have someone that's trying to win speakership to try and hold your party seat that you were elected to represent hostage because he now disagrees with your party. There's just a lot of loopholes that were abused, and frankly, were needed to be abused in multiple instances as a result of the ever-changing political scheme or scene. So we have a lot of plans for Parliament, obviously, but the Backbencher Protections Act was just a very weak piece of legislation, and I'm not sure it's something that we want to bring back. I think it's something that we should rework entirely.
Okay, and now Jimbo 9687.
Well, I once upon a time was a backbencher myself, albeit it's a while ago now. So I do understand why people place a particular value on backbenchers. I remember my time as a backbencher quite fondly. However, I think the truth is that backbenchers can often be ignored and whipped into line for voting. And one of the measures that I introduced when I was leader of the House of Commons was the liaison committee. I think that worked pretty well, and it worked well for months until these last 2 months where it has been ignored, which I think is a real shame. So while I support the idea that we can have new committees, hang on a minute, let's have a look about the one we've already got. That did quite a good job of giving backbenchers something to do. I think that's something we should consider. On the broader question, I think that we have to place a particular emphasis on what parties do for their backbenchers, because yes, we've got parliamentary legislation, but actually, for example, in the Social Democrats, we've got a chairperson of the parliamentary party, and we've had backbenchers like Terminer, who've been there a while, and who are now in shadow cabinet. I think that's something that's really important. It's how I got my job. So I think, yes, we can talk about parliamentary legislation, but I think that almost misses the point. It's not about parliamentary legislation. It's about how parties look after their own MPs. And I think that's something that we do reasonably well in the Social Democrats. And it's something that I'd like to see in a positive way in all parties. Thank you.
And finally, Cap and Slow.
Thank you. Backbenchers are a stepping stone into the deep end of politics, and I think the Nationals are all about fostering careers for new politicians, and ensuring backbencher communication is a crucial part of our cause. Hearing backbenchers' opinions, it's a crucial part of not only the party, but a government, and most importantly as a house. As backbenchers form the majority of our seats, their opinions are crucial in the actions that we take and the policies we employ. Hence, the Nationals are always committed to protecting the rights of backbenchers and ensuring their opinions are heard. As promised in our planned rewrite of the standing orders, we will empower the liaison committee, which, prominently died due to the Pirate Party chairman being banned and them taking so long to replace the MPs who sit on it, so they can ensure the government is doing their job and yet ensure backbenchers remain professional. Another promise, submitting early day motions so backbenchers can voice their opinions on certain matters in Parliament which are often swept under the rug.
We have early day motions.
Okay,
Yeah, that's
is there
what we do.
anything that people want to open out
I
on the
put them
floor?
in when
Or
I.
we
Yeah,
bring
no.
all of them on?
I'd just like to bring up, Jimbo, he brought up things that were inside your own party, and I think people will know this for a while, especially those that have been in the Unionist Party. We have had a Monty committee, was previously called the 1922 committee, and the party, the parliamentary party, elects a chairperson. That chairperson gets a seat on the party board, and there's a second elect for that committee that also gets a seat on the board. So there's two representatives there that get a seat on the board, and they have a say in the party's own affairs. So I think that's always been an excellent stepping stone for the MPs that wish to go into cabinet. And to all the backbenchers or backbenchers to be of the Unionist Party, I'd encourage them all to get involved in it.
Yeah, the Monty Committee was an idea that was floated around in the Pirate Party as well. A lot of our backbenchers were interested in reestablishing that. As
The
Harold said,
Monty-
it's a good stepping
You
stone.
can't establish the
can't-
Monty Committee, surely.
Yeah,
have
you
to come
can't
up with your
establish the
own
Monty
name.
Committee in the Pirate Party because the Monty Committee is a unionist thing, just like the 1922 Committee is the real
Oh,
life.
just like how
parliamentary party
abolishing
of the
DCFS was,
Conservative Party.
not a pirate policy. You guys steal
What are you
policies from us
talking
all the
about?
time.
You can't have
All the
one.
time.
Boston,
I don't need to
this
hear
is
none of
not
this.
policy. This is an internal party thing. The Jimbo, he's got his his parliamentary party chairperson. That is the Social Democrat thing. We don't have a parliamentary party chairperson. We have the Monty Committee. We have the 1922 Committee. That's our party's thing. You can't have a Monty Committee in the Pirate Party. Have your own name, like
Okay.
the Boston Committee or the Barron
Harold.
Committee or the FLP
Harold.
Committee.
I think you have vastly misunderstood what I said. I said
No,
we
we
haven't.
haven't.
Yes, I think you have. You
No,
can
no,
go
quite
watch back
frankly,
the
no, I
playback.
think I heard.
We
I
quite
heard
literally
what I
said
thought.
that
I
we
heard
have
what
an
I heard.
idea like the Monty Committee in
you
the
No, no,
saying?
Pirate
because
Party.
you were advancing
You've-
the
that we were
Monty Committee.
establishing
that
it.
we're
Then you
going
started
to
talking about the
to
Department
Play
of
it back.
Multimedia Sport.
Oh
What
my
is the
God.
DCMS?
No one
got to do with
understood what you
Monty
said.
All right,
because
all right,
you
everyone,
moved your
settle
mic
down.
so close to
Settle
your
down.
mouth that it literally stuttered out, Harold. Like it's
For
not
God-
that serious, bro.
For
Little
God's
bro,
sake, the
calm down.
DCMS has got nothing to do with the
Little
Monty
bro,
Committee.
calm down.
Okay, now we're going to move on to a question from the audience that Bush would like to introduce.
Yes, thank you, T. Okay, so once again, we're going to have Mr. Boos is May come up and ask his question live. If anyone else is interested in asking a question live in the final few minutes of the show, send me a DM. But until then, Mr. Boos, are you there? And take it away.
Hey, thanks, Bush, for bringing me back on. Look, my question's very serious. For the last period under the National Unionist government, we saw the rise of the UKFO and many terrorist organizations in Northern Ireland, in my opinion and some others, we saw very little action. What would your parties do to solve this crisis, and how would you stop the mass killings on Westbridge?
We're going to start with Jimbo for this one.
I'm really sorry, but I didn't get the first bit of that question. I lagged out. Would you mind repeating it?
Absolutely. Under the National Unionist government, we saw the rise of many terrorist organizations in the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland, such as the UKFO and I believe another one in Northern Ireland, which I can't remember the name of. What would your party do? And we saw very little action from the government at that time. So I was wondering, what would your parties do to solve the crisis of mass killings in Westbridge and in Northern Ireland?
Well, I think that what we have to do is strike the correct balance between having a bit of crime, because it's good for activity, but also having an effective response to that so it doesn't actually end up taking away from the experience. I think as part of that, I know that we're looking at introducing far stricter sentences as part of an in-game sentencing review. That's not been looked at for a while. But I think a good part of it also comes down to the activity of our services, and as if we've got strong services, then we can counter strong crime and we can have really healthy activity. But we've got to get there. I think we can get there. I think we can do better than what we're doing now, and I think if we're elected, we will do so. Thank you.
Next, we're going to go to Captain Slew.
Well, thank you. I think firstly, I have to agree with Jimbo in saying that crime is an essential part of maintaining activity, and rather unfortunately, this is Roblox, and services like the Met, they won't be active if there's no crime. We'll be taking action against the mass killings on Westbridge. We need to strike a balance between a soft and hard response. We need crime for activity, but we also do not want to stifle the OCG system set up by group staff. What we want to do is keep public services strong and active, and those who can challenge terrorism and OCGs on Westbridge. And also, we'll be attacking specific members of the OCG, specific members of OCGs, specifically UKFO, with kill on sight orders if they are persistently attacking EMS workers. Let's just remember, crime is up, and the pirates and unionists failed to deliver.
Next, we're going to go to Harold.
Well, I disagree with the fact that UKFO is a major problem because they aren't anymore. I think OCGs become a major problem when they begin going political, which is what we saw with OWCA, and it's what we saw with the early stages of UKFO when they were deliberately used and weaponized against the other political parties, which was obviously not great. But honestly, the UKFO now it's a driver of activity within Westbridge. I know I saw Wayne himself. He was praising the organized crime groups for bringing activity to Westbridge, and I think activity within Westbridge is excellent. The organized crime groups are bringing it in, and what the government should be doing is having more events within Westbridge Town Hall, which was, of course, a unionist implementation. But more activities for the organized crime, or more activities for the organized crime groups, more activities for the emergency services, and it's great. I'd actually argue we should have more organized crime groups. It's more fun for each other, and more events like the great the Purge and the Riot, and when they kidnapped the Princess Margaret. It was all great for activity.
And finally, Boston Man.
Yeah, so talking to what Harold said, I mean, fighting OCGs like UKFO when they're completely out of their prime, they're no longer at their peak, is just kind of a wasted effort. Obviously, like 3 weeks ago, the opinion on this would be a lot different. They were planning terrorist attacks. They were killing a lot of people. UKFO's kind of fizzled out. I believe their leader also just got banned too. So UKFO is really not the target anymore. There's a fair balance between OCGs and just too much crime. And obviously, we're still working on finding that balance and giving enough powers to police constables to be able to fight that. But I feel like crime has been on a complete decline in the past 2 weeks through the unionist and pirate government, albeit short-lived. There was just a significant decline in crime in general. I mean, you could get on Westbridge and you can actually walk around now. And that's so much different from 3 weeks ago where you'd log in and you'd basically be spawn killed for like 30 minutes straight or until you logged off. Fighting corruption is another key part of this, I believe. Ridding corruption from the services in general, including the Met, will help tremendously in being able to give them power to actually fight crime. But obviously, you need a little bit of crime to give the Met a purpose, a job. And while it's a bad look to say I'm out here supporting crime, if we want an active game and an active service, the Met feeds off crime, LAS feeds off the injuries caused from crime as well as roleplay events. And I believe in Northminster they mentioned an arson system, but I'm not too sure about that. Crime provides a lot of activity to our game. And so maintaining some level of crime while not having it be too overwhelming like it was 2 weeks ago is a key here.
All right, I'm going to hand over to Bushbury for. I'm not sure if it's another question.
Yeah, I think no, actually, T, I think now's a good time just for us to have our own input in for a second, if that's okay.
Sure, go for it.
I think Stangoose in political discussion just made a great point that Westbridge with no crime is not fun. Crime is great for Westbridge, and I think all of us agree that crime is great.
Depressed Josh Miller.
Was that everything to add on the question?
Yes.
If so,
from my
on. Another audience-led question on a similar topic, but this time about crime and Parliament. So we are inviting Demolition 99 to ask a question on that topic. Can you hear me? Demolitioner, are you there? You are muted. Hello? You there?
He's asking his question right now.
Yeah.
You might have a muted Bush.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I think Bush had you muted.
Sorry.
I can hear him.
Oh, okay.
I can hear him.
My apologies, I muted. Did we hear the question?
Yes.
I heard it.
Repeat.
Right.
Yeah.
Boston to start then. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah. So your question was stopping basically illegal transgressions against OCG members holding a seat in Parliament. Demolitioner.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you, Boston.
Yeah, of course. So the Pirate Party was one of the only parties that never voted in favor of illegally removing Forward from the election or deregistering them. We also voted against, and we're pretty much against I believe it was a piece of legislation that was introduced to ban members of
party.
OCGs from
And you feel
MP.
That was proposed by Sean.
I do not believe so. I believe that was a policy from Drac originally that they worked together on. But we do not support that, no. And we actually whipped against it, I'm pretty sure. I'd have to double check. But I have screenshots of all of our whips, so that's okay. No, we're against it. Banning people from Parliament is a pretty ridiculous idea. I feel like they should be banned if they've committed a serious transgression against the United Kingdom. Like in the case of Persian being named a national security threat. But I feel like just being a member of an OCG, contributing activity, that's not a bannable offense or should have you removed from Parliament. Now, in one instance where I think that you could see the good side effects of being in an OCG and in Parliament. I can't remember his name, but he was a former Home Secretary, and he was one of the best in the UK's history, and that's because he had a deep understanding of crime and was able to make policies.
Sorry, I think you might be talking about Jake Cunningham, maybe?
Yes, I believe so. Jake Cunningham. That sounds familiar. Yeah, but to my point, though, he was a great Home Secretary because he understood crime because he came from crime, and as a result, he helped strengthen the Met in fighting crime, which I believe is a very good thing for all.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll move on to Captain Slow from the Nationals.
Thank you, Bushberry. Well, it's a simple answer, really, and that's no. OCG members will be allowed to sit in Parliament unless they've committed a particularly serious offence, which, of course, jeopardises our Parliament. Adding on to that, I think, Boston, you mentioned that the bill was Sean's, and the Pirates whipped against their own bills, and...
No, it was Drac and Sean's double bill, I believe. I believe they worked together on it. I know Drac introduced it last term, like before this 2-week term. It was a policy
bill.
by Drac.
So it was
that
still
was a different
Sean,
bill against electoral offences.
That he proposed one that quite literally said deregister for it. I'm pretty sure.
No, I
Anyway,
think it was blocking
more
people who had
on to my
ever committed an
question.
electoral offence from sitting in
I'd
Parliament.
have to go look back. I can't remember exactly what his bill was,
Why
but
whip
I
against
do
the
believe they worked
bill
together.
that your own MP proposed? It makes no sense.
Because the Pirate Party doesn't restrict our own members from being able to propose legislation that they believe is fit. Like, I don't understand this whole unitary control over your party thing. The Pirate Party has always been on the basis that each MP
Why
represents
did you
their
get
own
rid
views.
of the Backbenchers Protection Act then?
Because again, like I said, when you have backbenchers that are trying to hold your seat hostage, you sometimes have to remove them.
You've just said that you want to give them a voice. Well, which way do you want it?
Okay, so you can have a voice and not just be blatantly using your position to break community moderation standards and call an entire party racist because a couple people were saying a bad word.
That's not the same thing.
No, that's exactly what happened.
No, it isn't. That's not what I said.
Was quite literally using admin in Parliament in the speakership
It's a general
election.
question. It's not about any specifics. It's just that.
Okay, and I'm delivering a specific to say why I support
Well,
having
I'm not talking about
act removed, but still ensuring a
moderation.
voice for people. Okay, but that's a good point for that. That's an exact reason why the backbencher should be repealed, the Backbencher Protections Act. When you have someone breaking moderation standards, using their position in Parliament to call your party a racist party as a result of a word a couple people used in your caucus, that's a good example of when a backbencher should be removed. That's not having a voice. That's just being petty and using your position for. I don't even know what that power gimmick was.
I agree, but I don't think you can say that. Every backbencher's got a total voice because at some point you have to cut it off. That's what I was pointing out.
That's my example. Is the Backbencher Protection Act was very loophole filled, and it was just abused improperly. It was a useless piece of legislation, to put it out there. I mean, it really just got abused by everyone. There was numerous workarounds for it. Stripping party membership was the big one. There was no reason to have it. We allow people to have a voice where their voice is actually being used to not be petty and have some weird power gimmick, like calling us a racist party or whatever it was.
Anyway, I'm sure you mean by a word, you mean the N word.
Right.
No. I think there's just a quick little thing I'd like to add.
Go ahead.
I think the National Party, the Democrats. I didn't really read. To be honest, I didn't really read the Pirate Party manifesto, but not manifest. Sorry, the what they call it again? The Constitution. Yeah, all the constitutions worked a way around it because the Act specifically mentioned that if it does not contradict anything that's said in the Constitution of the party, which meant that every party wanted to work its way around it because at a certain point it becomes unsustainable. And I agree with Boston there that there are certain scenarios in which it is definitely unsustainable. So
Well, I think we all agree with that, which is why it passed with bipartisan support really everywhere.
yes.
Okay. Going back to the original question, Jimbo, did you want to answer that now, or do you think you've covered that? The question in Parliament.
OCGs. Well, I think the better way of doing it really is to not necessarily brand whole groups saying you can't come into Parliament. It's better to look at people individually, and you could maybe do that through the National Security Council or another way. So I think, yeah, as with many things, you've got to strike a balance.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll move on to Boston Man. If you had a response to that question.
I thought I already responded to it. I was the first to
Yes, you
go.
did. Harold,
God,
sorry.
no, I haven't. Yeah. Yeah, I agree with Jimbo. People should be looked at individually. I think it was the time. As I said, there's a difference between OWCA and UKFO because one of them was very, quite frankly, political. The other one was not very political. So you should look at both separately. And I personally don't think that OCG should be entirely banned from the House of Commons.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, it seems we're all pretty much in agreement on that question, so unless anyone had any final comments, we'll move to closing statements. Alright then. Closing statements, starting with you, Jimbo.
Thank you. I think what we've seen tonight is that even though there are clear differences, there is actually quite a bit that we do agree on. And I think that's quite a positive way in which we can close off. This is for this election. We're looking forward to it.
Jimbo, your mic's
And
cutting
we
out.
believe that a positive vision for real change in Britain. We can deliver stable governance. We can deliver practical and pragmatic governance. And I hope and trust that the British people will lend us their vote in the upcoming election to enable us to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Cap and Slow for your closing statement.
Thank you. I must say overall, although there are issues that all of us agree on, I think the biggest thing I have to say is the other parties here, they're overused and frankly have proved they're incapable of running the nation and the government as seen in the collapse of the unionist pirate government. The Nationals propose an alternative. They won't send you back to the voting booth in 2 weeks, and we propose a stable government that will reclaim and rebuild Britain. Not just the same old stability we've been promised. Let's deliver. So vote National.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Boston Man.
Yeah, so I mean, as you could see it from what we've seen tonight, obviously the parties they bash and clatter a lot, but there is a decent amount of agreement between all the party leaders and myself in general. So bipartisanship is definitely not out of the question. Bipartisanship is obviously what drives the politics of this nation. And while we did have again, as I said, either you believe that a promise was broken and that's a reason to dissolve a coalition or not. Bipartisanship still drove the government for the 2 weeks that it was in place, and a lot of things got done. In the Home Office, for example, in the judiciary, even in the Treasury, we got things done. We got the budget proposed in, I believe it was 23 hours. In the Home Office, we reformed His Majesty's Inspectorate. The Pirates are proven to be policy-driven and successful in actually attaining goals and promises that are set out. And I believe that lending your vote to us in this upcoming election we'll continue to see the progress for Britain that not only the Pirates want, but every party leader here wants.
Thank you very much for your response. Finally, we have Harold for the Unionist Party to deliver the final closing statement. Go ahead.
Yes, I think tonight has been a complete back and forth between all of us, but I think we've all ended on an incredibly positive note that we're all completely united in many issues. And I think that you should all vote for the Unionist Party. Obviously, I'm a Unionist, but we have proven in the past that we are there to deliver. We have been around for a good long time, which some may see as a positive, some may see some may see as a negative. I myself have been around for ages. Jimbo's been around for ages, you know. But the truth is, we're there. We're there to deliver for the full two months. You vote for us, we'll be there for you for the full 2 months. We will deliver on the main aim of the Unionist Party, which is national security. We will strengthen national security, and quite frankly, that's why you should vote for us.
Well, thank you very much. And what has been a very, uniting close to what has been a very decisive debate. However, there can only be one winner in the election, and there can only be, well, coalitions, but can only be one winner now. As a result, very shortly, we will be announcing the winner of the debate, and I have been told that the graphic is up, it is ready, and we will pan over very, very shortly to announce the winner. A very, very close race, but it has resulted with Boston Man 18 being the winner of the independent debate this evening, with a very high turnout of 104 votes in just about 35 minutes. 104 votes overall, with 40 votes going to Boston Man, followed very shortly by Jimbo with 32, and the other two parties. The Union.
Hey, you can't fake influence.
The Unionists third, and the Nationals fourth. Boston, do you want to make a quick statement on that very impressive victory and performance tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the fact that all the party leaders came out against me and I absolutely blasted them is just a wonderful thing. God bless the voters. God bless the people of this election. The Pirate Party is going to win, come on top. I look forward to working together with the other party leaders and getting Britain back on track. And thank you all for your votes.
Okay, well, thank you all who have come on tonight. Obviously, representatives, people working behind the scenes, and of course the many people asking their questions, filling in that form. But it's been an hour and 15. It's been a very fun night, but it's time to call it a day. So thank you all very much, and I hope to see you again very soon.